guys? Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be working on the Scout. We're going to be pulling the old intake manifold off and putting the new one on. Whether you saw my first video or not with my build intro, I have my nice new manifold that I bought off eBay and have it all painted up, ready to be installed. And I got to pull this old one off because one of the mounting holes for the water neck is busted off and I don't have the piece to weld back on. And it was pretty beat up and had a few cracks in it anyway, so I decided to replace it with a nice one. So I'll be pulling that off and then gonna clean up the rest of the engine, pull the valley pan off so I can take a look at the inside there and the lifter assembly, make sure that's all clean before I put it all back together. And yeah, so we're one step closer to getting her back on the road. So I'll set you guys up and we'll start pulling the manifold off.
Here you can see that the bolt here that I'm trying to get out is kind of rounded off, and you can't get a good grip on it with a 6-point. It just spins. So I bought a little cheapy 12-point from Home Depot, and I'm gonna try to get that on there with a little bit of leverage from a jack handle, and we'll see if we can pop this thing off finally. Gonna have to do a little bit of work on the grinder here, just shaving this side down because you can't quite get up against the manifold. I don't know why they made it such a tight spot. I don't know what tools they use from the factory, but I can't get in there with a socket or one of those universal joint pieces or anything special like that. So I'm confined to a wrench, and I'm gonna have to modify this one a little bit, just like I did at the 12-point. Like you can see, if you look straight on the profile on this side's a little bit different where I ground it down there, so I just got to do the same thing with this here. So I'll bring you guys back when I'm finished with that. Alright, so I'm back. Gave her a quick little shave on the grinder there. Nothing too bad, nothing that was going to weaken the wrench. So see if we could fit it on there now. Still needs to go a little bit more. I didn't really take off too much because, I'd rather take off too little and keep grinding than too much in one pass. So we'll try that again. Alright, so I got quite a bit whacked off of it now. You can see, if we can get it to focus here, how much it's changed that side profile there compared to the other side. I don't think I've weakened it too much, because there's plenty of material up here. So yeah, give that a try now. Hopefully so it looks like got a little bit of an interference kind of here where one of the intake runners kind of hits on it. So I'm just going to kind of touch the corner of it. And this is kind of aggravating because, again, I don't know what they use to put this thing together, but it's tight enough to where they use something. So I'll grind a little bit more off of it, and I'll bring you guys back. And as if it were magic, we now have a nice slope cutting that there, so hopefully it won't hit the runner there. I didn't mark it, I just kind of guessed, but I made the groove pretty wide there, so hopefully we could just get enough on there to pull away and get the bolt out. Round 3, I think. Alright, I think I'm partially on it. I'm just going to grab a hammer, try and really tap it on, because if it's partially on, I'll just do the same thing I've been doing this whole time, rounding it off. So just give me a second to grab a hammer, and we'll get that thing tapped on, and then we'll give her a yank. Alright, so here we are. I ground down that washer there, or the bolt there, so that's popped out. So we got the whole thing off here. It's ready to just pull out. It's just kind of laying down there on the clutch rod down here. So I'll pop that off and I'll slowly remove that paper up there because it's got that mountain of metal on it. Don't worry, that was covered. It just kind of got pushed off a little bit. But the whole thing needs to just be cleaned a little bit with a rag, so that'll be taken care of. So I'll get you guys mounted and I'll pull this thing off, and then we'll go over to the bench. We'll transfer this whole setup for the vacuum gauge as well as the fuel pump, or no, sorry, not the vacuum gauge, for the vacuum pump and the fuel pump. Get that transferred over to the new manifold. Get it cleaned up on the grinder as well because it's still got some of that gross turquoise kind of paint that this is versus the nice new red. So we're going to keep this the same brass color because it'll look nice polished up. And get that bolted in with a little Teflon tape. And then we'll work on this lower part down here, getting that cleaned up. And that'll just bring us one step closer. I'm glad I was able to get this thing finally popped off because it was really aggravating me for a while that I couldn't get it off. So yeah, let's see it. Alright, here we go. Coming off for the first time, probably since the thing was built. Oh, they're heavy. And there we are. Ugh. This thing actually doesn't look too bad in the intake runners. However, the water jacket, pretty nasty looking. As well as the whole manifold in general. So yeah. Alright. I'm not too surprised to see that. That looks rather good. It's got some good metal shavings in there. Glad those made it in there. Alright, so... Oh, that's nasty right there. Alright, well... Stay. Stay. Alright, let's pull this gasket off. It don't look too bad. I see that the indention side goes towards the manifold, because I know on the gasket that I bought it said this side to manifold. Yeah, it says right here. Oh, sorry about that. It says manifold side. So I guess that's there. So I'm gonna stuff a little bit of that paper or even a shop towel in those holes, and we'll get it cleaned up. Something also too, this is a Felpro gasket, and that's actually the one that I bought off of Rock Auto as a replacement for this one, so that's pretty neat that we're using OEM type parts. You could definitely tell there was a leak of some sort, and that it kind of dripped down the engine there, because it is pretty nasty looking. And I know coolant was pooling up on top of the manifold. That's what kind of started this whole fiasco, because I found that somebody had used a putty to fix it, and that's not fixing it. That's just kind of $5 parts or $5 fixes at these things that really shouldn't be messed with, especially for the condition of an engine. So this is junk. Yep. And we'll get those ports cleaned out. We'll get some of these hoses out of the way so we can actually see what we're doing for once. Hell, maybe we can clean the thing up and have it back on this time today. I know for you it'll be like over the course of a few, really quick, but I'm hoping that I can get this done on this Sunday here. So just remove this slowly. Very delicate process here. Alright, so that's good. Only a few metal shavings, a few 100,000 metal shavings got into the engine, so we're just going to go ahead and hit that with a shop towel, maybe a little compressed air. Just a shop towel, whatever. And then we'll get that pan pulled off, and that looks kind of nasty. On the inside of the part that bolts up to it there, that was pretty nasty. And I kind of just gave that a quick clean, didn't spend too much time on it. But it's kind of alarming how bad it was. but you know. So we're gonna end up painting kind of the rest of this. That's the same red color. So at a glance, when even though the rest of it isn't cosmetically great, when you open the hood at the car show, people aren't like, engines weren't turquoise, and you're like, yeah, I know. So we're just trying to avoid that. So all right. So now that I got the rocker assembly off, I'm gonna take one push rod out and one lifter out at a time and clean them up. I'm not too concerned about cleaning up in there because it's just going to kind of get gross again. But I'll try and remove some of that paint that kind of fell in there. So we'll see how that goes with removing that. I don't know how easy it's going to be. I'll do this one here because I could see it. Okay, that was shockingly easy. I thought for sure I'd have to make some sort of tool to manipulate the thing and do whatever. But that was pleasantly surprising. So it looks like some of these are good. Like this one seems pretty good. You can definitely see where it's got a layer of like maybe oxidation or something. Let me bring you guys around here. Kind of like maybe where it sat, moisture got in there, like as if this thing was sitting for a while in a field somewhere. But otherwise, it doesn't look too bad. And let's see if you could. It does appear like this one is good, but I'm gonna make like a little chart thing on some cardboard and mark down where each of these go so we can keep track. So yeah. Okay, so I got the lifters and push rods out, and they're all organized here, so I kept track of them, which ones came out of what cylinder and what intake was lifter was which. So we're all good there to make sure they can go back in good. And just like a quick inspection of the bottom of them here, they don't look really bad. The wear pattern was really normal. When I pulled them out, they had the fresh oil I had put in it. And they're not really dished at all. I was expecting them to kind of be dished and kind of scored, but they're really nice, really shiny, and they have a slight contour to it, but it's only some of them. And looking at the lobes on the cam, from what I could see, shine a light down there, those are really nice too. So it looks like it wasn't run too hard. It was ran normal, and it gets carbon buildup like anything else. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set you guys up, and I'm going to go one by one and pull each lifter apart, because they have a little spring clip where you could take the lifter apart, and I'll get them cleaned up, and then we'll get ready to install them back in the motor, and then we'll work on stripping that valley pan cover, getting that painted, and figure out something to do with painting the rest of the engine. So let's get started. Alright guys, so it's the next day, for me at least. In the last scene, you saw me take apart a couple of the lifters. I didn't record all of it just because it would be really repetitive. And basically what I did is I took them apart, cleaned out the gunk, and I put them back together, oiled them when I put them back together, and I let them soak in the same oil that I have in the motor, which is brand new oil. And so I'm letting them soak over on the bench, and I'll bring you over there when I'm ready to install them back into the motor. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just wipe down the motor and the motor mounts and stuff, and I'm going to get it all taped off and painted. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the lifters back in it and the push rods back in it and the rocker assembly too, and we're going to put the cover back on for the lifter valley cover, or the lifter valley cover, so that gets painted along with it, just so I don't have a red manifold and red valve cover on top of a turquoise green motor, and it'll just look nicer compared to the rest of it. It'll stand out. And then there's just a few other parts over here, like the water pump, that I'll just kind of fog black and not worry too much about. So you'll see me get that cleaned up just nice, nice enough to paint. And yeah, so most of it will just get wiped down. Not doing anything as nice as what I did to prep the manifold. But at least for now, while I don't have great access to the motor, it'll at least look somewhat presentable when you show up at a car show and you decide to pop your hood up to show people of the world what you've done. So I'll set you guys up in a time lapse and get it cleaned up and taped off. Alright, we're back here. Off camera, I cleaned up the cover and taped off the ports there and bolted the cover back on and threw in the lifters. I didn't bother recording it because you could find a better resource than what I would have been able to cover here in the video. So if you're curious how I did that, it's really the same for most engines. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the comments below, as always. And so that's all I could do for tonight, because it's pretty dark out now, and I want to go upstairs and get cleaned up. So tomorrow I'll bring you guys back, and we're gonna just try and spray all the parts of the engine, and I'll try to get the letters in the valve cover taped off so I can get that painted white, so we can get everything back together within the next few days, and hopefully I'll get it edited soon and get the video out for you guys. Kind of in a time crunch here, just with school and stuff. So yeah, see you tomorrow. Alright, so I just threw down a quick coat of primer, just kind of hit some of the key areas. Still gotta get down there, and down there a little bit too, but covered the majority than I wanted to, and kind of hit the water pump. I'm not concerned about taping off these hoses at the moment, because I need to take some paint thinner anyway and just wipe these down, because I mean they're a little bit scuffed and stuff, so those will look nice again. So I figured, yeah, I'll just get paint on them. Same with the belt too. I'll just hit that, and then water pump, I can't remember if it's black or if it gets painted red. I'll have to look in my original brochure, because they have a nice picture of the engine at different angles, and it shows you what was originally painted red or black. And if it is black, then I have a nice rust inhibitor that I painted this steering column shaft with here, so that'll get used. But yeah, I think it looks good. And so yeah, I'll finish up tomorrow, like I said before. Yeah. Alright. See you then. Alright guys, so it's the next day. I sprayed the primer coat on there. I haven't hit all areas yet. I've missed a few down by the fuel pump and the vacuum pump there. And then I also hit it with a little bit of color just to see how it come out, and it looks pretty nice. So you can see there I got most of it covered. Missed that spot, like I said last night. And I just sprayed that. I sprayed most of it off camera just to spare you guys from having to watch that, because there are plenty of other good sources on how to paint, and I don't favor myself as one of them to listen to. I kind of have my own little system on how to do it, and I could gladly give advice, but I wouldn't call myself an expert. So now what we're gonna do is I got a fan set up down there just to blow the fumes out the door. It is starting to rain, but we're working inside here. And I'm just going to hit some other areas with primer and let them dry. And in the meantime, I'm going to paint some other nuts and bolts and hardware and stuff. So hopefully pretty soon we'll get the rocker assembly back on, the manifold, the valve cover, and everything else like that. Dress the engine up and fire up and listen to her. Hopefully we fix the lifter tick. I didn't really touch upon that here. When the engine was running, you could hear a lifter tick. And it was really kind of loud, and I determined that it was stuck lifters. They are hydraulic lifters, that's why I'm able to take them apart. So I cleaned them. There's other good resources on that, like I said before. And so now I'll set you guys up, and I'm going to start painting the rest of the engine. Alright, so as you saw there, I got the engine all painted up. It actually came out not half bad. I thought it was going to come out a lot worse for just doing like a spot paint. Again, missed a spot down there, but I got it covered in the back there. And so I'm just kind of going around and cleaning up some spots, like on the rubber hose with a little bit of paint thinner, the belt, the stuff on the alternator, and that'll clean up just nice. It is raining out now. I got the fan going. So I'm just going to do a few more things, and then I'm going to try and paint the hardware, kind of set up a little table right here so you get the direction from the fan. Swap over some parts on the intake manifold, and just do work in general, just to get ready. And I will film some of that. So I'll meet you guys over at the bench. Alright, so over here at the bench, I got my old intake manifold, and I got to harvest this setup here, which is already loose. And this is what goes from that hole in the lifter valley cover through that sort of a bent. It looks like a PCV valve, but it's not. It's just kind of a tube, like vacuum return. And then this is a vacuum supply. So it's kind of pulls it from two parts of the manifold here and through there. And it's for not the fuel pump, but the fuel pump is mechanical. It's for the top part of the fuel pump, which I think is like a vacuum pump, and that controls like the wipers and stuff. And so I got to remove this and put it on my new one. So I'll clean this up on the wire wheel, get the brash kind of nice and shiny, clean up this piece down here too. Just leave that bare metal. I'm not going to bother painting it. It'll look nice. And then I painted the heads of the bolts off camera, and so we're going to get everything installed and everything like that. I'm not going to be able to put the manifold on the actual motor, but I'll be able to put the bracketry that goes down here on the new manifold, because I wanted to get grade 8 manifold bolts, just so they stand up a little bit better than what was on it. I'm sure even grade 6 stainless steel hardware would be just fine, but I'm not going to bother painting it, so I think grade 8 bolts will look nice with the red. So yeah, I'll set you guys up and we'll just pull this off. Alright, so I got my two pieces nice and polished up here. They look good. I knew the brass would clean up really nice because I think I have like a brass brush on my wire wheel there, so it's nice and gentle on the brass stuff. It cleaned up. It's got a nice shine to it. It looks better in person than it does on camera, I'm sure. Oh, there you go. You got a little bit of, yeah, see, reflection there. And then this cleaned up really nice too. Kind of revealed some markings there. Not sure, it looks like a G, a little dot, a little cannonball kind of there. And then this one is pretty cool. I don't know if this is original to it or not, but it looks like it starts over here. It says AC spark plug type. Looks like CV619. IHC, International Harvester Company. I know that much. And then 967397 R91. So this is an original IH part. I haven't seen other setups like this, and this has got a little valve in it. When you shake it, you can kind of hear it slopping back and forth there. I'm not sure what it is. It might be a little float or a block off or something when you put air or a vacuum or something through there. It closes that valve, so it only sucks it through the manifold, and sucks it through here, or so it only sucks it through here and not down there. I'm not sure entirely how it works. I didn't take it apart to find out. Didn't want to mess with it. Just cleaned it up. So now I'll drag the manifold over here, get some cardboard laid down, so we don't scratch up the nice paint job. Get these parts installed, and hopefully the heads of the bolts are dry, so we can get everything snugged up and you can see what I did. Alright, so here we are. Got the manifold on the bench. Got my parts I just polished up. Got my bolts, coil bracket, coil bracket, coil mount, and ignition coil. Everything's painted up, ready to go on. I actually already gasketed this stuff. I bought this set of gaskets actually. There's like 10 of them in the bag, but I only needed 2. From Rock Auto. It's sticky back. So I'm going to cut that little piece up there just so you don't see it. And then this one I got from Quadrajet Parts. And it's just a Holley 1904 spacer, and it's got this little hole for like a vent or something. I'm not sure why. I don't think it's needed since it's facing a solid brick of wall of metal. You know, so there's that. And then I polished with the carb studs. Trying to focus in. There we go. And I got to do the double nut trick of sliding those down. I don't want to put vice grips on them because they're only brass, and that'll scrape the threads if you clamp down on them with the amount of pressure that you'd need. Also painted up the coil. It's a Delco Remy coil, which seems pretty old, but it did clean up nice. It's all painted. One of the studs is spinning, so I'll just have to be careful when I put it back on. That's actually not doing it now, so we're good with that, hopefully, to put that on. But I just threw that on there because I'll take them off to install the wires anyway. But at any rate, oh, got a fingerprint on my manifold. No, yeah, like it won't see oil anyway. So we're gonna throw in the coil bracketry and everything, or no, we'll throw this on first, and then we'll throw the coil bracketry on. And so yeah, I'll find somebody to set you guys up here, and I'll get that filmed. Alright guys, it's looking really good. I think I'm done for tonight, and I'll pick this back up tomorrow. Started to clean a little bit off the belt there, and it's looking good. I just have to rotate the fan over once it's dry, and take care of that in there. And then I'll hopefully get the bolts pretty soon. Finished up on the manifold. Unfortunately, my camera died, but got all the pieces where they need to go. Got the coil and stuff like that. Gaskets, got the studs all the way down. So I'll pick this up tomorrow. Alright, so here we are. I'm back, next day. So I got my valve cover here that I painted up and I taped up. So just got the letters here. And all I'm going to do is just kind of give this a scuff sand, maybe down to bare metal, because I found with the paint that I'm going to use, the high heat white paint, that it likes bare metal in thin coats, and it doesn't want a darker color underneath because it's kind of a thin spray paint and it shows through, and you really need to build up coats. And I don't want a sharp tape line when I pull this off. I want it to be a nice transition. So I'm going to sand this down to bare, or as close as I can get it, maybe with a heavier grit sandpaper, because this is like, what's this, 1500? Yeah. So I'm going to grab something a little lower, maybe 600, and just pull that off really nicely, really cleanly. Give it a quick wipe, and then we'll just fog spray paint on it in layers, just fogging it. And of course I'll tape off the rest of this so it doesn't get overspray on it. But it did come out really nice. It looks this good in person as it does on camera, believe me. It really does. It used to be ugly, but I cleaned it up real nice and took my time to clean out all these little grooves here and sanded it and bonded any imperfections. It really made it a really show quality piece. I'm quite pleased with it. But yep, like I said, just gonna knock off those letters on the top there, and then I'm gonna try and fog it white, and then do that. I'm gonna soften any tape lines that showed up. I got this taped down really well, and I'll make sure it's all stuck down good, so I don't get any bleed. And if I do, we'll try and wet sand it, try and fix it, but I wouldn't mess with it too much. And then after that, I think I might clear coat it, I might not, depending on how glossy this paint is up against this red. If it's dull as heck though, then I'll try and clear coat it. But I don't want to venture too far off because it's already got a really nice gloss, as you could see. So you can see my reflection there. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. So I'll set you guys up, and we'll start trying to knock down these letters, get it down to bare. Alright, so here we're outside. I got most of it cleaned up. I decided that I would just lightly dust primer over it, because I found that the white paint that I'm going to be using does stick to a primer. You just got to do light coats of primer, and a thin coat of paint per coat. It's kind of weird, but I think I got it down in my head, and you'll be able to see and follow along as I do it here. I got all of the letters cleaned up here. I just decided to scuff them down so the primer would stick to them, so they're no longer shiny, and you can see where I tried to do some white paint way beforehand with a different method I tried, and it just didn't work, and that's where it kind of cracked and split on me. So we're gonna try this, just gonna dust it and hope for the best. So here we go. So that's literally all I'm gonna do, is right there. Like, you could still see some like of the white paint poking through, like right there, that just didn't get covered. And I just don't really want to, actually let me just touch that up, and I really just don't want to do much more than that. I mean, I'm already kind of complete, and I can see some spots poking through, so I'm actually just gonna hit those. All right, now I gotta walk away now. All right, so I'll come back when this is dry to the touch, and we'll start throwing some white on it. And don't worry about that, that's just tape. Once we peel this off, I'm hoping it's gonna look money. And then we can go ahead and put the rocker assembly back on the motor and hopefully plop this baby on. Alright, so I'll see you then. But I got my new gasket cut out here. I didn't bother doing the spray glue thing. So I'm going to run over, grab the bolts and the actual piece itself, and we'll get it bolted up to the manifold.
If it more valuable, I would just order one and wait. But there's a point where you get tired of waiting. Anyway, so, okay. I think that's a 3/8 maybe. I can't remember the size of wrench or socket. Okay, but that's held on there. And so I'm just gonna grab a socket. Alright, I think it's a 7/16. Yep. Now be sure to torque this down evenly so the gasket squishes nice. Just gonna get it snug down there so it stops flopping around. Just snug to the touch.
Alright, so coming back to the valve cover over here. It's dried at the touch now. It looks really good. All those kind of rough parts is just the tape where I cut. And I made sure I got where I needed to, and I think it came out really good when I first taped it up. And it might look weird now because it's all one color versus the red on the blue. But I got my spray paint here. It's got this weird head, and I hate it, and I'm not going to bother changing it out because I'm just used to it at this point. But you can see kind of how thin it is and how runny it is. It's so weird. You spray it on thick, and you like pay the price. So I'm just going to wait till the wind dies down for a second here. And like I said, I'm just going to dust it. So okay, this first coat here looks pretty dry. It's dry on the tape, and it is dry on the dry on the cover. So I'll give this a quick little shake and dust it again. And eventually we'll get to a full nice even coat here. So alright, that concludes this coat. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and throw another coat on the valve cover over there. But I started to clean up some of the rubber hoses for the water lines and the heater box over there. You can see the one that's kind of slumped over there, how gross it is, and see how nice this one cleaned up. Just using a little bit of paint thinner. It kind of works like a lighter alcohol, or it won't won't melt the hoses and it won't destroy them, but it just gives them a nice clean up. It removes any marks, and it kind of gives it that original haze it had. And it's really brought back the rubber texture. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and throw another coat on the valve cover over here. It's already looking mighty good. I'm just going to go ahead and dust it once again, and hopefully we'll have reach an end in this process at some point. I'm thinking this might be my final coat. Again, I don't want it to be too thick, but I want full coverage. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll see you guys soon. Alright guys, so I finished cleaning up the hoses, and they look great. I really like how they came out. I took each one of them off, and I did the paint thinner like I said, and just ran it down the hose and cleaned it up just on the outside and do it on the inside. And I put them back on, and they do look really good. I gotta make sure I tighten that hose clamp up there. And so over at the valve cover, I think we're done with coats, so I'm gonna pull it inside and gonna try to peel the tape off, I guess, because it looks dry. I'm not gonna mess with it at all until I know it's been a while. And so I'll get that inside, and we'll peel it off. Alright, so here we are. I'm gonna peel off this stuff here. Came off nice. Peel off these top layers of tape before I go and trying to guys, well, there it is. There is a little bit of bleeding here and there, but I think with my skill set, I think it came out really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay this on there, and I think I might bolt it down. I think I'm ready to do that. So yeah, let's go. Alright, so I got my rocker assembly partially cleaned up, and just gonna kind of drop it on there, I guess, and align the rockers one by one, I guess. It's a fun task. You'll have to flip up. Alright. A few more. And back to the beginning. Oh, hold on. Alright, I think I don't know what that was. Might have been this. Alright, I think we're most of all the way there. Yep, there we are. So I got my silicone, and we are just going to go through and silicone RTV the threads of each of these bolts. And one thing I thought was cool was they have like a nylon insert, kind of like an old school lock bolt, which is pretty awesome. So yeah. Alright, so we're just gonna go ahead and RTV each one of these up. Not looking to drench the bolt, and just kind of give it a little squish like that on there, and then just make a quick little spread of it and plop it in place. And there you go. There's one. And so I'm just going to go through and I'm going to do all of them. Alright, so with all the bolts in now, I'm just going to go ahead and snug each of these down, and then we'll torque them to 22 foot-pounds. I'll start at 15, and I'll move out, alternating bolts to the outside. So I'll start with this one, this one, this one, and then it's going to be this one, and then I'll go through and I'll hit all the ones that I missed with 15 foot-pounds, and then I'll do the same sequence with the 22 foot-pounds. And then after I'm done with that, I'll do one wipe across and one wipe back with 22 foot-pounds. I know it seems a bit excessive, but I got to double, triple check what I'm doing here, because this is kind of something you can't afford to mess up. So you got to be careful with what you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten them down. Alright, so it's the next day. I don't even know how many days I've been working on this now. I'm just chugging along here, and I'm happy with how it's turning out so far. So right now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna hook up a new negative wire, because this one unfortunately broke off here. And so pop the cover off here, and I'll clip this, solder a new one, pop it back through the housing, and then get this kind of situated back on with the rotor, and then we'll move to putting the manifold on. So yeah,
I'll set you guys up in time lapse and we'll just take care of this real quick. So a little trick I want to show you guys is I have this spade terminal here, and it's a little bit too big for the size wire I'm using. And all I did was strip off a little bit more than you think you would need, and I bent it over like that, kind of in a hook, and I've been kind of squishing it together with my fingers, making it tight to itself, so I can go ahead and slip it in this slightly oversized terminal. Just trying to get it wedged in there. Alright, so all I did was squish it together. I'll show you guys in a second. And work it in there. And there you go. So you see I got my bundle of wire down there, and it's a nice tight connection already, and when I crimp that down, it's not going to go anywhere. So that's just a little trick I've picked up to make sure wire terminals don't pull apart if they're ever under pressure, they got kind of tugged on, or something fell on top of them for whatever the reason. So it's just something I like to do just to ensure. And if you want to, you could even wrap a little bit of electrical tape around it, and that helps too. But in this situation, it's already tight enough, I'm not going to need it. So all I'm going to do is take my crimper tool, rest it on the part of the body here of it, about halfway up. Make sure my terminal is still tight in there, and notice the little nub that's actually going to do the crushing portion of it is on the top of the terminal here, and that's going to make sure I'm getting the actual crush and not just squeezing it. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some force. There we go. And that looks really good. So if I pull on that, it's actually a lot of force there. It's not coming undone. So that's pretty good. And that's just a little simple thing to do just to ensure nothing ever comes apart when you don't want it to. So there you go.